Okay, we're going to look at creating the column and beam for our superstructure or understructure to support our ETFE panels. In the original go around with this, I made those curve shapes. I'm going to dispense with that. I think by offsetting these far enough away from the front plane shape, I was trying to reduce the apparent profiles, but I think that's just too much added cost. So we'll do a little value engineering. So let's go ahead and start by making a column. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new family, and it's going to be a generic model adaptive, but not pattern based as we were using. So there's no relationship of the adaptive points to a grid system. It's now just a grid system. So we're going to open that up. We'll select a plane to work on, and we'll place 2 points, and we don't really care where these are at that point. And there's always that delay before the other point appears. Go to the front elevation, and I'm just going to drag these points so they're aligned to our grid system. We don't get a nice 3D reference grid in 2D sometimes, so this is just a quick way to do it. These are 35 feet apart. We're really like 34 feet apart. And the only reason that's critical or important is so that we get a good visualization of the length to relationship of its thickness. Now we have to make these points adaptive. So if I select them, I get an adaptive component selector, and I can make those 2 points adaptive. And we'll zoom in here, and now we have to have a line between those two to extrude our form out. So I'm going to make a reference line. We can go ahead and check to see if this is actually going to behave adaptively. And it does. So let's go ahead now, and I'm going to zoom in. And we're going to, the rectangle always gives me more trouble. When I try to draw with it, I find that we get no way of pulling dimensions off of it quickly. I'm not exactly sure how that's supposed to function. So I'm going to not use that tool. I'm going to use the polygon tool. And I'm going to go ahead and just make a polygon anywhere. And we really want to be, let's say 12 inches deep with our column. And we're going to resize that. We'll make that, so I'm going to just select one of the edges. And we'll make that 4 inches. And then we'll go ahead and take that and we'll move that so that it's on that point. And then we want to get it away a good distance. So I'll come back to that point and I'll move it off 2 feet. So we have the shape now and the reference line. And we'll go ahead and create form. That didn't look right. Let's try that one more time. It still doesn't look right. Hold on just a second here. Got that one. This one. There we go. All right, so we have our beam, so we'll do a save as. Or excuse me, we have a column. Save it as a family into our folder. Column. And now we need to make basically the same element again. And I'm going to leave this one in place just so we can see for a moment where we're going to be constructing. And so we'll go ahead now and set our work plane again. And let's see if we can use this as a reference. I don't want to do it that way. Okay, so let's pull this back until it's in the center line again. So we're just using that as a reference just to see where we're going to actually be building that secondary column. And it's transverse, obviously. So if I tab here and grab this, it's 4 inches. We'll move that to 6 inches. So I'm going to take this one and make it 5. And then I'm going to grab the other one and make this one 6 inches so it pulls out symmetrically. We can go ahead and get rid of our primary column right now. It's still called a column, so right away I'll do a save as. Remember, we just saved it as a column, and now I'm just going to resave it as a beam. We're just using the exact same file, but not having to reconstruct everything. So I'll grab the beam element that we want to extrude out and the reference grid, and we'll go ahead and create form. And now we have our lighter weight element that we're going to actually use horizontally, even though it's drawn vertically. So we've got that. I'll just save that to double check, make sure I've saved it. And we're going to go ahead and load that into the project. And the project we're working on is the panel system. So we'll go ahead and click OK. And now we're at our grid. So let's just look at this in a 3D version. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll delete that out. And actually we could go ahead and place that component. So I'm just placing one on the top, and then I believe it was one every 3 panels. This gets a little hard to visualize the way I've got it drawn here. Let me see if I can rotate it up. Yeah, that's a little clearer. Okay, so we placed now our offset. I think that was I hope I placed a beam element, yes. Now we got to go out and grab that column element. So I'm going to go to recent documents and grab the column again. That's the heavier one, and I'm going to load that into the project also. And we're going to do the same thing again. And it's every 3rd grid. So let's see how well I can do. Create component. We got our column. First one. Second one. All right, so we can zip in there now and just see if we've created our system. Yeah, so our secondary elements are sitting in the center of that span. They could have been maybe flushed up to the front or back, but so we have our grid system, and next we'll look at panel placement.